All right, YouTube. Here's some important psychological wisdom, and it's this idea of paradox. And I think our entire worlds and our entire lives are built around these dual paradoxical forces. And if you can get hip to those, you can work with them instead of against them. And so a common paradox is, for example, the more you try to convince and argue your point of view to somebody, the more closed off and distant they get from your point of view. On the contrary, the more open and present and listening you are, the more likely the other person is going to be to listen to you. And so that would be a paradox. You would think on the surface that arguing your points and having the best slam dunk logic is going to convince the most people, but paradoxically, if you give space to let them express their point of view, they'll give space to let you express theirs. Resilience has a paradoxical element. So it's hard to be strong and resilient without going through some pressure and some suffering, right? And that can be a paradox in and of itself. It may seem on the surface, logical to avoid suffering, and that will keep you the most healthy. But in reality, a healthy dose of disturbance and tension and struggle is actually helpful to our growth and development. Kind of like the trees here, as they blow in the wind and they're introduced to that disturbance, their trunks actually grow stronger as a result. And so there are many paradoxes of life. Life itself is a paradox if you think about it. In order to have meaningful life, we have to have this realization that we are going to die. And so death teaches us how to live. Very often, the more we try to connect to other people and to go out of our way to become, attached to a certain person, paradoxically, the more they're going to pull away. And the more we make ourselves a little bit more scarce, the more people tend to gravitate towards us. And so I think it's psychological. The wisdom here is that you have to understand that whatever your desire is, you have to create space for the shadow opposite of it. And so people who have a strong desire and motivation for perfection in their work, the paradox is the more that they tighten their grip towards perfection, the more likely they are to face, the more likely reality is to show them that they're not perfect. And so if we want to perform really well, we actually have to make space for mistakes and setbacks. And that's actually the way to get the closest to perfection. Again, it's a paradox. It seems sort of counterintuitive at first, but a lot of life works this way. And so, what are some paradoxes that you can think of? Have you ever considered this in your own life? Have you ever tried to, push up against a paradox and found that it's very hard? Have you ever faced undue suffering because you've been negligent of a certain paradox? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you for watching.